What's up guys? Today I have an incredible brand new blaster to show you. This here is called the Challenger Mk3 from QWK. And what's most interesting about this blaster is it's an AEG. AEGs are the most common type of airsoft gun or gel blaster, but they're pretty uncommon in Nerf due to the heavier 1 gram projectile needing a lot more air to actually move it. An example of a Nerf AEG that you might have seen before is a Hasbro Nerf branded Stampede, which shot about 60 feet per second out of the box. Well, the Challenger Mk3 has 3 times the muzzle velocity at 180 feet per second straight out of the box, and it can full auto mag dump at a rate of fire of 6.5 rounds per second. An AEG, or AEB if you're afraid of the G word, works pretty much the same as any manual Springer. However, inside there's a set of gears and a motor which automatically cocks the spring for you every single time you pull the trigger. The Challenger Mk3 has a closed bolt design. What that means is the default state of the blaster is that a dart's loaded and the piston is cocked, so that as soon as you pull the trigger, it instantly fires like any manual Springer you've used before. Despite the Challenger Mk3 having a closed bolt design, you can actually swap mags at any time for a tactical reload. And it actually drops free from gravity. Being a spring-powered blaster, this can actually benefit from rifling to add accuracy to your shots. And out of the box, under this black cover, it actually comes with a bearing scar barrel to add spin to every single shot that you fire, something that a flywheel blaster cannot do. As a result, the Challenger Mk3 has the rate of fire of a flywheel blaster, while also having the accuracy of a Springer. Now, this unit here was sent to me by a Singapore-based retailer called Black Raisins, and I'll give them a shout out in a link down below if you want to pick up one of these Challenger Mk3s from them. But I should probably also thank Woo at QWK, because thanks to them, I get to actually keep this after reviewing it. There's a few different versions of the Challenger Mk3. This version here that Black Raisins sell is called the Pro Max, and it's the top of the range model. It has some features that the standard and the regular Pro version don't, and as such the price tag reflects that of being the highest of the 3 different models. This will cost you 780 Singapore dollars, or converted to US dollars that's 575. In the box from Black Raisins you get the blaster itself, 2 of the proprietary magazines, a LiPo battery shipped inside this kind of glass protective container. You get 3 sets of Picatinny rails to throw on both sides and the bottom at the front of the blaster. And you get a packet of QWK's Dragon darts. Externally, the Pro Max is made of very thick nylon with some aluminium parts, and it definitely feels like a high quality premium product in the hands. It has a matte finish and is comfortable to hold while also being far more solid than any store-bought Nerf blaster. Surprisingly though, it weighs less than I was expecting at only 1.6 kilograms, and the standard version without all the metal parts would weigh even less than that. Now, before you operate the blaster, you'll have to install that included LiPo battery. It's an 1100 mAh 40C 11.1 volt battery, which uses an XT30 connector. The blaster doesn't come with a charger, so I'd recommend something like an IMAX B6 along with some XT30 balance leads, and the battery should get you about 500 shots per charge. To access the battery storage compartment, the upper separates from the lower using 2 pins, reminiscent of the old Jet Blaster seater. The battery sits above the barrel at the front of the blaster on a battery sled, and I really like that they've included a Velcro strap to keep the battery and all of the wires out of the way of the moving components. After reattaching the top of the blaster, I will quickly mention that the rings on the end of the pins do rattle while you're running, just like the Jet Blaster Cedar did or the Dart Zone Pro blasters do. You can kind of solve that by pushing the pins in all the way. Now it doesn't rattle anywhere near as much. After installing the battery, next you'll want to load up one of the proprietary magazines. These hold 20 shots, and have a stronger spring than worker Talons do. So overall, these are better mags. They also have a magnet inside which lets the blaster know when the mag's empty. There's a small little sticker diagram on the side to show you how you should be loading these darts to avoid any feeding issues. One thing I will mention though is you need to use darts with firm foam, like the Worker Gen 2 high-end darts that I'm using here, or the included Dragon darts. With these two types of darts I haven't had a single jam even on full auto. But apparently if you're still using darts like AF Pros, you could run into some issues. Now I've got two mags fully loaded here. Just gonna fully mag dump to show you that there's no jams. That slide's locked back. Dump that mag out. That one in. Hit the slide release. And fire again. There we go. Now, while I still haven't had a jam with this blaster yet, the Pro and the Pro Max version actually have a sensor inside the breech that can tell whether the breech is fully closed or not. And it'll actually prevent the piston from firing if the breech isn't all the way closed. On the standard version of the blaster, not having this sensor could actually damage the blaster if you fire the piston with the breech not closed all the way. So luckily the Pro and the Pro Max both have that sensor. Now, as you saw before, the magazine actually goes into the grip of the blaster itself, which is really cool. The grip is kind of chunky, but nowhere near as bad as blasters like the Worker Phoenix 2.0, which have really, really massive grips. This is still comfortable to hold in the hands, and it even has some grooves on the front for added grip. With the magazine inserted on the left-hand side of the blaster above the trigger is the selector switch. With it set to the right, it's in safe, you can't pull the trigger. One click over is semi-auto, it'll fire one dart per trigger pull. The next click is 3-round bursts, obviously firing 3 darts per trigger pull. And all the way to the left is the giggle switch, also known as full auto. I found that the extension on top of the selector switch has a tendency to come off. You don't actually need this part to use the different fire modes. I took it off for the gameplay so that I didn't lose it, but personally I'd probably give that a drop of glue so that it can't come off. Now, as you can see here, after fully mag dumping this blaster just before, on the Pro and Pro Max version the bolt will lock back to let you know that the mag's empty, which is more realistic. From there, simply drop the empty mag out, grab a full mag, and hit that bolt release located above and to the rear of the grip on the left-hand side of the blaster. Now you can continue tagging flywheel peasants. On the base model standard version of the Challenger Mk3, instead of locking open the bolt, what it will actually do is just prevent you from firing that last dart out. So what you have to do then is just take the empty mag out, put a full one in, and continue firing. What I don't like about that is there's no indication to say that you're on your last shot until you go to pull the trigger and nothing happens. So I think that would actually get me killed a few times, and then I'd be really annoyed with it that I didn't get the Pro version. At the end of the day, when you're done using the Challenger Mk3, you can decock the spring for storage by loading in a mag with at least one dart, putting the blaster into safe, holding down the trigger, and then move the selector switch to semi. After about 5 seconds it'll fire the currently chambered dart and remain decocked to help preserve the strength of the spring. From there, put the blaster back on safe, unplug your battery, and pack it away for next time. On the Pro and Pro Max versions, you get a CNC aluminium gearbox rather than the standard nylon one. The Pro Max takes this one step further and adds a CNC aluminium cylinder and pusher. These CNC aluminium internals are much stronger than the stock nylon ones and allow the blaster to survive accidental or deliberate dry firing. Let me know in the comments down below if you just cringed or felt pain for this blaster. Overlaid on the screen for you, here's an internal shot of inside the gearbox. If you take a good look, you'll notice the cylinder and pusher are one piece, and the entire cylinder moves back to cock the piston and allow a dart to feed up from the mag. The cylinder and pusher then return forward to push the dart into the barrel, and I think it's quite an interesting mechanism overall compared to airsoft or gel ball, where the gears move the piston itself and instead use a tappet plate to actuate the nozzle for feeding. Some owners of the Challenger Mk3 Pro Max have already upgraded the spring in this to shoot 230 feet per second on average with worker darts. However, the gearbox is not really designed to be opened or modified. QWK could have added a quick change spring retainer at the back of the blaster for easily swapping out springs, But because they didn't do that, multiple people attempting to change the springs have already damaged their blaster. But there's a lot of fine wiring and components inside here that are very easy to break if you don't know what you're doing. Because of how hard it is to change the spring out, I'd highly recommend weighing up how much that 50 FPS bonus is worth to you. The barrel of the Challenger Mk3 is a standard aluminium 13mm ID, 16mm OD barrel. But where it differs from other blasters you may have seen, it actually has machine cutouts in it which interlock with the blaster shell to help hold it in place. If you want to experiment and use your own barrel, keep this in mind and perhaps use some wraps of electrical tape to hold your new barrel in. At the front of the barrel beneath this black nylon protective cover, it has a bearing scar barrel. This one has 8 bearings in groups of 2 at an angle of 10 degrees. A benefit of bearings rather than a traditional string scar barrel is that you don't lose as much velocity to friction. Externally up the front of the blaster, it comes with some side Picatinny as well as bottom Picatinny. You do need to attach it yourself though, and the mounting holes aren't tapped. So as you screw the rails on, you're also tapping threads into the plastic. So I wouldn't recommend removing them and putting them back on too often. The side rails came in quite handy for mounting my GoPro for the gameplay footage you'll see later. I also mounted a vertical grip since there isn't really anywhere for your front hand to naturally hold on to. Up top, the Challenger Mk3 has 30 centimeters of Picatinny rail, and despite the top piece being held in by 2 pins, there's hardly any movement to it at all. So you could definitely zero an optic on there, and I'd personally recommend some form of 1x red dot sight. There's plenty of cheap airsoft red dot sights on Amazon or eBay for about 30 bucks each. At the back of the blaster, it has an adjustable buttstock. On the Pro Max, the buttstock adjustment rails are metal instead of nylon, which gives the Pro Max a much more sturdy buttstock. A common complaint on the standard and the Pro versions is simply how flexible that nylon rail is. But with the metal one here, I'm trying to bend it, and I physically can't. So as you saw in Wacom's video, this thing is nowhere near as bendy as his is. The stock has 9 different lengths of adjustment. Just hit the button on the bottom to adjust it. And personally, I found it most comfortable 1 notch out from fully collapsed. And I have pretty long arms, so this stock can go pretty long. Some other small parts the Pro Max has upgraded metal versions of include the mag release and the bolt release levers. I think the placement of these are great. I never found myself accidentally hitting the mag release, and the bolt release is easy enough to reach with your thumb. That pretty much covers the overview of the blaster. Now let's head outside and shoot it over the chronograph and see how hard this is hitting. First with the included dragon darts, and then with red worker darts. $174, $174, $177, $173, $179. With dragon darts, I got an average of 175 feet per second, with only a 6 feet per second variation. Now let's see the red worker darts. Now I've got the worker darts. 168, 163, 162, 164, and 165. With worker darts, I got an average of 164 feet per second. Both types of darts had great consistency at only 6 FPS variation. Dragon darts did shoot 11 feet per second higher on average though. Now let's take a look at the full auto rate of fire. Dumping a full mag of 20 shots takes only 3 seconds, giving the blaster a rate of fire of 6.5 rounds per second. Next, let's test the accuracy by shooting at a target 30 meters away. First with worker darts. From what I've found, I have to aim like up into the tree to reach the target. So, this first shot will just be getting the height correct. And then we'll have 5 worker darts and 5 dragon darts. All right, let's go. With worker darts, the grouping was 15 centimeters wide and 85 centimeters high. That's a very skinny grouping. Now let's test dragon darts at 30 meters.
Alright, onto the dragon darts. Alright, that's 5 dragon darts and 5 worker darts.
With dragon darts, the grouping was 30 centimeters wide and 120 centimeters high. Slightly worse than worker darts. So while dragon darts may have a higher initial muzzle velocity, worker darts had the better accuracy. For my final test, I'm enlisting the help of a spotter here named Josh, and we're heading somewhere that there's no trees above me for a maximum range test. 1 worker dart and 1 dragon dart.
Alright, which one are you standing at?
The black one.
48 meters. Now find the red one.
Red one.
46 meters. It's pretty much no difference.
Taking velocity, accuracy, range, and price tag into account, I'd choose the worker Gen 2 high-end darts every single time for this blaster. Overall, the QWK Challenger Mk3 is a brilliant feat of engineering. Being an AEG, it combines the rate of fire of a flywheel blaster with the accuracy of a Springer. Having a closed bolt design, it also has the instant trigger response of a manual Springer. So there's no revving up of flywheels or cocking a spring, it just fires immediately. Straight out of the box, it's shooting just below that 180 feet per second mark, while also being able to hit a human-sized target with every single shot at 30 meters, with a maximum range of about 48 meters. If you play somewhere with a velocity limit of 200 feet per second, I think you'll absolutely dominate the field with this blaster. And for people who play higher velocity, like here in Australia or Singapore, the Challenger Mk3 would still be my pick for distances closer than 30 meters. And as you're about to see in my gameplay footage, using it against 300 feet per second full auto gel blasters, the Challenger Mk3 is a precision tool purpose-built for CQB.
The only reason why I stayed here is to watch that happen.
Allahu Akbar.
It didn't go off. Yep. Was that you, Paul?
That's it for this one, guys. Hope you've enjoyed the video. Click on my profile icon to subscribe to the channel. Otherwise, here's 2 other videos that you might enjoy. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.